Hi, I'm Tyson Franklin, and welcome to this week's episode of the Podiatry Legends Podcast. With me today is Funmi Obi from ChilternWellbeing Foot and Ankle Clinic in Hayes, in the United Kingdom, which, in case you're wondering where Hayes is, it is 16 miles from London. And I've done a few fact checks
You've
here.
done your research.
I've done my research. It's 45 minutes by car, 16 minutes by train, so why would you drive? But if you choose to walk, it will take 5 hours. So, Funmi, how are you doing today?
Morning. Thank you very much. I'm doing really well, thank you.
I told you I was going to have an interesting introduction for you. So, thank you for coming on the podcast. I'm looking forward to this. And I'm going to ask you a question up. I haven't asked anyone this question for a little while. Why did you decide to do podiatry?
So my journey into podiatry wasn't straightforward. So it was a second choice, a very good second choice, but it was a second choice. I'd always wanted to do medicine, always wanted to be a doctor. And that fateful day of results, things changed. And I had to think on my feet. I couldn't go back home and say, oh, well, this is the situation.
Yeah.
Not if you're from an African family anyway. It doesn't work like that. So I called UCL, then explained the situation, turned my phone off. I went into London straight, and they told me about pediatric medicine. It's in medical school, and I'd read about podiatry before in the UCL prospectus when I was applying for med school. It looked interesting. And so I went for the interview and I got a place. And I'd always thought that, oh, I'd do podiatry and then I'd switch. That was the plan. I'd do podiatry, then I'd switch. I'd go back to med school and it would all be great. And I actually fell in love with podiatry. I really enjoyed my degree. I enjoyed all aspects of it, the clinical aspect. And then I said, okay, I'd let me work as a podiatrist for a year and just see how it would go. And at 18 years, I'm still here.
Still there.
Yeah.
Can I go back a step? I need to go back one step because you opened this door. What's the pressure of being from an African family?
The expectation to succeed. It's not a bad thing.
Oh, no, not at all.
Encouragement to succeed. And so in whatever you do, so it doesn't matter what profession you choose to be in or what you choose to do, you just have to do it really well. So,
okay. It sounds similar to a lot of immigrant families, like Asian families, Indian families. And I know, like back in the day when I was at school, we had a lot of Italians and Greeks. And there was this big expectation that those kids did well at school, went on to university, because their parents had worked hard to give them a better opportunity than what they had.
Absolutely. And most of the times, families or ethnic families or immigrant families are coming into different countries with not much. But one thing that was always kind of drilled into me is that your education is your key, it's your access. That's what my dad would say. It's your access, it opens doors.
Yeah.
So it's really important that you focus on that. That's something nobody can ever take away from you. So that was the kind of ethos in our home. Even my mom, she's at 69, did her PhD. So that's the kind of so that's the kind of family. Everyone is very highly educated. So it wasn't really, I wouldn't say it's a pressure, it's an expectation, but I think it's something that it's so very much part of my fabric that I think that's what has helped me to get to where I am now and made it so easy for me to not wallow in my own sorrow that my career has changed. It was like, okay, what do we do now? Let's make this work and let's get on with it. And then let's just make the career the best I can make it, that's what we're doing.
Okay, so because you went for medicine, didn't get it, but straight away you pivoted, did podiatry, your family was like, it's cool, you're doing something. As long as you go to university and you qualify for something, at least that's going to open certain doors, which may lead to other doors later.
Whilst yes, there was disappointment, but I think they were more impressed with how I handled the situation. I think demonstrating at that young age, I guess, how old are you? 17 when you're doing your A-level, 17, 18. I think they were more impressed the way I just managed the situation and gone on with it and came back and delivered the news. This is what I'm going to do. And I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this. And I think even now, as a parent myself, my child did the same thing or said the same thing. I think I would be very impressed with that, showing that determination. That's really important. So,
Did your husband have the same upbringing with the same
yeah, so
pressure?
he's African as well. He's Nigerian, like myself. Yeah, and equally, well, and very successful and humble about it.
Yeah,
I think it's just a thing. I think most of us speaking out of place, but most kind of Nigerians you speak to, they typically are doing quite well.
that's good to hear. So, how many
Mm.
PhDs are there in your family?
That's a few.
There's a few. So your mum's not the only one. There's a few sort of throughout the family.
Yeah.
So, was there pressure on you that once you finish podiatry to do more study and get a PhD as well?
Yeah, I've done my MSc. I actually really enjoy studying.
Yeah,
I would like to do a PhD at some stage. I think at the moment, running a business with two young kids, definitely not the time, but I do enjoy learning. I enjoy putting into practice what I've learned. And I think it's really important to learn. I think
mm,
when you become stagnant, you become very frustrated. And I think even as podiatrist, I do have that insatiable appetite to do courses and to read where I can. And it doesn't need to even be podiatry related stuff. I listen to podcasts on different things and just to keep my mind alert because I think it's important to be so well-rounded as a person. That means you can have a conversation with anyone you meet on any level and it becomes easy.
yeah. That was one
So
thing that my friend Dave Fries, it was last week's episode, but he was one of the first people that mentioned me. Listen to podcasts completely outside of your wheelhouse. Listen to things
yeah,
that you would not normally listen to. He said you'll be surprised what you will learn.
yeah.
And I remember this one particular podcast. It was about being more efficient in the household.
Okay.
It was really weird. So I thought, oh, I'm going to listen to this.
Weird. That's not weird. It's
Oh no,
fact.
but for me to listen to that, I thought this seems like this is outside my wheelhouse. I listened to it, and do you realize I learned it only takes like less than 2 minutes to empty a dishwasher?
That's all you picked up on
No, I picked up a pile of stuff, but what it was when they were talking about efficiency around the household, it just happened to be two sisters that were actually doing this podcast. I can't remember the name of it, but I really enjoyed it because they were talking about when you're out in the shed and you're doing something, this will be how to make things more efficient.
Yeah,
But what you learn there, I went, oh, that's interesting. You could actually apply that to your podiatry business.
absolutely. I think, yeah, absolutely. I think that being efficient is probably one of the most important skills
Yeah.
that I think I have or try to have. Because even just we could maybe trivialize running a household, but
Oh
to
no,
be able to manage
it's
all
tough.
of that and then put your game face on and go to work and then you're the podiatrist or the business owner and you're the employer and then switch back. I think that well if you've mastered that skill then yeah you're good.
So I want to get back onto your career.
Yeah.
It,
Mm.
when you graduated, you went and worked for the NHS.
When I got my registration I locumed for a little bit, then I started working in the NHS in kind of November 2005. And I stayed in the NHS for a long time. I think I
Yeah.
went part-time quite early. I went part-time quite early. I think I realized quite early on that the full-time 9 to 5 wasn't really for me. So I think within about a year as a band five, I went part-time.
What's band
And
five?
I would say that's like your new graduate podiatrist.
Oh, so band five.
No, it's
It's
just
just new.
you knew fresh out of university, particularly. Yeah,
And
that's
then how long do before you go to band four, band three, two, and one?
no, so it goes band five, band six, band
Oh, it
seven.
goes
Band
out the
seven
other
would be
way.
like clinical lead, yeah. And
Okay.
then band eight is senior management level and up
It's
nine
funny,
like
I've
director.
I've heard that mentioned so many times when people are talking about NHS, oh, band seven, band eight. I
Yeah.
thought it went all the way up to number one, but no, it's actually back the other way.
So started off as band five podiatrist and then within 2 years or so. Then I went to band six, stayed as a band six for a long time because in the NHS sometimes that time it's quite difficult to get a band seven role. So when when you become a band seven, you're now a clinical specialist. So that could be either in MSK and diabetes, whichever one of those kind of roles you want to go into. And then then I stayed as a band seven for a long time,
Oh, so you did make your way to
years.
band seven?
Yeah, so I was MSK clinical lead for in multiple trusts for maybe, I don't know, maybe 10, 7 years
Yeah.
across different trusts, I think. Yeah, so and then I left the NHS 2 years ago.
So going back one step again, did you say though that when you started the NHS, you only did it part-time though, and you were working somewhere
Yeah,
else?
yes, I started full time. As much as I enjoyed it back then, I just felt that the opportunity came. They needed someone to take over their clinic. It was a podiatrist that was moving to Canada,
Yeah.
and it was really close to me. And one of my good friends, she was locoming somewhere, and she said, "Oh, there's just spoken to this lady. She wants to relocate to Canada, and her clinic is close to where you live. Like, what do you think?" I was like, "Yes, this is what
Okay.
I've been looking for." Yeah, and I went part time, and yeah, and from there, I always worked part time. I always had ran like a one chair clinic
Yeah.
from the beginning.
And it was in a private practice.
Yeah, yeah. So it was in a multidisciplinary clinic. So first of all, I started off it was in like a chiropractic clinic, just
Okay.
rented a room. And then I moved to a bigger multidisciplinary clinic, which was an osteopathic clinic. And I was just the only podiatrist there. So everywhere I've worked, I've been the only podiatrist there, just running my own thing from that room. And then 3 years ago, I had enough of that. I outgrew that and decided to open a proper clinic and employ staff.
Okay. Well, we're going to get onto that. But can I
Yeah.
ask a question about what is the fear of private practice in the United Kingdom? Because when you see some of the Facebook pages and you'll see new and recent graduates and they'll be posting something that's almost like there's a bit of apprehension about going into private practice. They feel like they must go and work in the NHS or they're a bit frightened. Like private practice seems a little bit scary compared to the NHS. Is there a reason for that?
I think bad news travels fast, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I think maybe some people have worked in private practices and they haven't had the best experience. The NHS and private practice are two very separate entities. But someone that straddled across the two, I completely can see that. When you're working in the NHS, it's almost very protected. You have everything's almost, I'd say done for you, but you have your clinics. You do your clinics, you finish your clinics, you do your notes, and then you're either doing, today I'm doing general, today I'm doing diabetes clinic, or today I'm doing nail surgery. It's all very structured.
Okay.
But when you come into private practice, you're very exposed, aren't you? You have to be thinking on your feet all the time. You don't know and also people are paying for your
Mm,
services, which
yeah.
requires a lot more of yourself. It's not just about being a brilliant clinician. You also need to be at least some type of nice person that somebody would want to see. You need a personality. You don't just need good hands.
Yeah.
And I think also private practice, the hours can be longer. So it's not necessarily the easy way. I don't think it's an easier gig at all. I just think it's very different. And I think maybe people have heard not so great things about private practice, but now that I've fully switched, I wouldn't be able to go back.
Yeah. I think it's changing though. Like I've had a lot of UK podiatrists on the podcast.
Mm.
Nearly all of them have worked in the NHS at some stage.
I personally think it's not a bad thing. Let's be honest, even though, yes, I've left the NHS, but where else would I have been able to get the breadth of patients that I've seen over the years?
Mm,
I would never see these types of patients in private practice. The experience that I've been able to get from all the different types of clinics, all the different types of pathologies coming in, all of the connections with other clinical teams, the having meetings, especially if you're hospital based, you can't replicate that experience in private practice. It's a very different entity. And I think it's potentially wise to at least go try it, see all those patients, get your hands dirty.
Get your feet wet.
Yeah, get your feet wet. Be under that kind of pressure. See all those complex cases, and you're doing a general clinic, and someone's coming in with this horrific wound, and so I think yeah, that experience I think
Yeah.
is good. I think I can say that working in the NHS all that time has a benefit. I can never say it wasn't a benefit.
So what's funny is you really lit up when I asked you that question, which I think is great.
Yeah.
So why did you leave? Like, why did you? What happened? At what point did you go, I need to go and work for myself. I want to go into private practice and
So
leave the safety
yeah.
net of the NHS.
The thing about that safety net is that if you're somebody that wants to grow,
Mm.
this is my personal opinion, this is not the opinion of any other person, just myself. I felt limited. I felt that I had reached the point where I didn't feel like I was growing anymore, personally. And I think started to become quite frustrated. For example, like when you're running your own business or when you work in private practice, if a patient needs something, you can get it for them or you can complete their package of care. As long as they can ready to pay,
Yeah.
all the solutions are there at your fingertips. You've got them in your clinic. You've got your orthotics, you can, if they want their custom orthotics quicker, you can get them in 5 days. You've got your shockwave. Everything is within your vicinity. And I think in the NHS, things just take a little bit longer.
Okay.
Everything takes time. And so I was becoming a bit frustrated with delays and politics and things like that. So I just reached a point where I was becoming more and more frustrated at not being able to reach my own full potential. And I'd been feeling like that for quite a long time. I'd probably say a good 10 years. I was working in Harringay, and I used to do a lot of the student placements when I was working at what used to be called Kensington and Chelsea, or CLCH now.
Yeah.
And I got to Harringay and I saw a student that I was on placement with me way back when. And he was like, oh, you're still here. You're still in the NHS. I thought, oh, dear. Because I've been talking about it, about leaving. And I think that really stung me. I was like, oh, God, I need to now do something about this. I'm still here. I need to go. And then also, I think the biggest catalyst was when COVID hit. And remember how devastating that was.
Yeah.
And when you just saw how many people didn't wake up the next day, they died. Some people that were healthy, people were dying, and the numbers of people that were dying. And we had quite a very tragic loss within our family as well. And I just thought to myself, you know what? This has happened, and I've been given the opportunity to wake up today. I'm here where a lot of people are not here.
Mm.
Why am I wasting this opportunity? It was so profound. I just felt that this thing that I've been so fearful of is actually something I shouldn't be fearful of, because what's the big deal if it went wrong? I've been so fearful of setting up a business, and it was really unnecessary fear. And I just felt, you know what, I'm going to do it because I may not be here tomorrow.
That's true.
You
I
know,
always say that to people. Work out what's the worst that can happen.
what's the worst thing that can happen? And also, I felt that actually, I think it's almost like I'd been working for so long in the NHS, and I felt like my confidence had taken a nosedive. I
Yeah.
think when you're doing the same type of repetitive job and you're doing the same mundane day in, day out, you start to lose a little bit of confidence in yourself. And I think that was one of the issues that I had. And after when COVID was happening, and I just thought, actually, it's not that I'm taking my family's money and giving it to someone to run a business for me. I'm taking my family's money and I'm giving it to me
Yeah.
to make something great. So what's the risk? If I know what I can do and I know what I can achieve and I know what I'm capable of, actually the risks are really minimum, especially if I felt that I was more confident in my ability. I'm like, you know what? I'm not hedging my bets on anyone else. I'm betting on myself. I can do it. Let's get going. And I remember my hairdresser, Michelle, and every time I'd see her every kind of 6 weeks, and I'd be talking about, oh, I'm going to set up a business and I'm going to do that. And one day she said to me, she goes, you're here talking and people are signing. you're here, and every time she goes, you're here talking. You come here and talk. You talk, and people are signing contracts. They're signing leases. I don't want to. Don't come back. Don't come back and see. Don't come back here in 6 weeks if you haven't got something to say. And I'm like, wow,
Yeah.
okay.
But I think one of the questions that people should ask themselves is, what's the worst can happen if you don't jump at the chance? If you could have
You're
just
gonna become
stayed there,
miserable.
well, you can stay in the NHS, and if you weren't happy there, what was your mental state going to be in 20 years' time if you
It's
just
true.
kept doing the same thing?
But it may not even necessarily be the job itself that you're dissatisfied with. I think it's being dissatisfied with yourself.
Mm,
Because if you haven't reached your full potential and you know you haven't reached your full potential, you start to become quite bitter. You need to be clear as to what you actually, I think goal setting and just being really clear as to, well, oh yeah, I want to be a podiatrist, but what type of podiatrist I want to be? What do I actually want to achieve? And I knew what I wanted to achieve, but I guess I was too fearful of enacting on it or going
mm.
for it. And then it just became bigger and more frustrating and more irritating. And then I just reached that. I was really irritated. Ask anyone around me.
Oh, no, but it makes sense. Everyone knows they should be doing something, and they keep saying, like, oh, there's still things in my life that I want to do. And I jokingly say to my daughter, who's 20 soon, yeah, when I grow up, I'm really going to figure out what it is that I want to do. And we sort of laugh about it. But sometimes I think if it's something you've mentioned more than half a dozen times, and you've been telling people you're going to do something,
Yeah.
the longer it goes before doing it. Like before I wrote the world's greatest podiatry business book, it's no secret there's money in
Yeah.
podiatry, back when I had
A
hair.
very good book.
Uh, I spoke about that book for probably 10 years before I wrote it. And then eventually I bumped into someone who was an author, and he said, you keep saying you're going to write this book, but when are you going to do it?
Yeah. You
He
need
goes,
those people in your
yeah, and
life. You need a
I went,
cheerleader.
bugger off. But then it was 6 months later, I had written the book.
Um, you need, I think what's missing, I think if you, one thing I've learned now, if you have a desire to do something, you need to surround yourself with people that are equally excitable and
Mm,
energetic and progressive. Because now I'm, I've always been a really big cheerleader for anyone that wants to do something exciting or they've got an idea. And I'm even I've become a bigger cheerleader for them now that I know that I wasted 10 years. Because if I had somebody behind me, like you can do it, just go for it.
but you didn't
Just
waste it.
go.
Just remember, you didn't waste 10 years. If you think about the amount of podiatrists that you helped along the way over that 10-year period by you staying in the NHS, who have now got great careers because they had contact with you, then maybe you were supposed to be in that's where you were supposed to be over that 10-year period.
Yeah, okay. First of all, I'd probably say, yeah, that is completely the wrong word. I shouldn't have said wasted, actually. That's probably more of a reflection on just the frustration that I felt at the time. But no, I wouldn't say wasted at all. I don't think I could take all the glory, career
I'll go
success
and
at
take
all,
it.
no. But I have met a lot of students over the years. And what's always nice that when I see them at conferences or see them at events, it's always nice to catch up and have a chat. So I feel that at that time, I just loved that interaction with students and encouragement and teaching and learning, helping them learn. So if in any way I was able to impact their careers or just make them love podiatry, then that's a job well done. But yeah, I won't take all the glory for that.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was a really good part of my role that I had over the years, and just really, yeah, encouraging people. It's a great profession. There's so much that we're quite lucky. The remit for podiatry is so large. And I
Mm.
think that's what I would just install in the students, that this you can do this and this is so much fun. And always just get in contact with me if you need me. So yeah, let's scratch that word,
Yeah,
not wasted.
scratch that word wasted. I think probably what ate in the back of your mind too was when you said that some of these people came back and they said, are you still in NHS?
Oh
That
yeah.
they probably realized working with you how good you were, and just assumed that you probably would have left and gone on and done something else.
Yeah.
So because you helped train them, they just expected you've got to move on yourself, but you didn't. So Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely not wasted. So scrap that word from your vocabulary.
Scrap that word. Yeah, no, no, not at all. No, thank you for that. That's true. No, it's been a good journey. And as sometimes my husband will always say, if I used to moan about my day, and he'll be like, your NHS work gives you your credibility, so stop moaning.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Just think for me personally, yeah, I think if you've got that itch and you want to do something different, just yeah,
No,
just
Pete, but
go
when you
for
were
it.
in the NHS, you did a lot of stuff in MSK. So you specialised in that area. So what you
Yeah.
learnt there, you've probably carried over into private practice big time.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that skill set, yeah, which and having that the breadth of the patients that I had has been really beneficial. So obviously with the clinic, I'm trying to navigate it to become more of an MSK based clinic, which because obviously that's the area of podiatry that I love the most. We still have a general caseload, but I think eventually that's where it will go. So yeah, in the NHS, I think just those the skills learned as kind of managing teams and doing audits and speaking to orthotic companies and putting training in place for the teams. Just all of those skills have been really useful, and I've been able to translate a lot of them to private practice.
Was it hard transitioning? Like going from, like you said, the NHS where a lot of things were done for you to then
Mm.
having your own business. I'm
It's
sure there was a
yeah,
lot of
it's
freedom
wild.
too, where you could just make decisions on things, didn't have to ask anybody.
Yeah,
But at the same time, it would have been even just a mental transition.
it was a shock. It was a shock, but it was the for me, I was at peace because it's something that I've wanted to do
Yeah,
and then it's done. So I was very happy about it and satisfied with it. It's been a it's been a large learning curve, I won't lie. The skills required to run a business are so different. And when I think the main difference is when you are like maybe running like clinical lead or you're sourcing orthotics or those kind of things. You're working with NHS budgets, it's not your
yeah,
money,
yeah.
but you're still very conscientious of the budget, but it's not your money. But when it's now your money
It's a
and
bit
you're
different.
trying to, it's very different because ultimately, if things fail, that's the stakes are slightly higher. So yeah, it's been a massive learning curve. I've had to think on my feet. I've had to get help. I've had to do courses and boot camps and like that boot camp that I did with you.
Yeah,
And but it's been fun. I think, do you know what I think? I think you almost have to be a certain type of person to want to run a business. I think you have to be wired in a particular way because the amount of it's not linear, is it? There's so many different thick curveballs that can come your way. And also the biggest challenge is consistency, to be
mm,
consistently good. You can't because you're being consistently good means that you get good reviews, you get repeat business, patients are satisfied, they recommend other people. So me being consistently good is not so is okay, but everybody around you needs to be consistently good, or your team needs to be consistently good all the time. So
yeah. But what you said about the personality type, I think it takes a certain personality type to want to have a good podiatry business.
okay.
I think there's other personality types that can just open a podiatry business and it can be rubbish. But
Mm.
what either they don't care or they don't know that it's rubbish because they don't know. They just turn up, they do what they're gonna do, they don't get good reviews, but they don't care. They just
Yeah.
they might be good podiatrists, but they just can't run a business. And sometimes they're the ones that I jokingly take the mickey out of sometimes when they go, I know I care more about my patients than making money. I'm like, why don't you say you're no good at business?
Oh, dear.
Because to me, if you've been in podiatry 10, 15 years, you've got your own business, you're driving a crapped out car, you've got a massive mortgage, and you've got no money behind you, you're no good at business because you should be doing
Yeah.
better.
Yeah. I guess it depends on what people's motivation is when they're trying to open a business. I guess I think people you speak to, everyone's motivation is slightly different. Some people want freedom. Some
Oh,
people
I totally
want
get
a
that.
better
Yeah.
quality of life. Some people want to make lots of money. But I think most people you speak to, well, what they say, how genuine that is, I don't know. But all
Oh,
their
people lie.
motivations are
I
very,
think people lie because I reckon if you open up your own business, you might want to do it for more freedom. I totally
Yeah.
understand that. But yeah, really, yeah, freedom only goes so far.
You need to pay your bills.
You've got to pay your bills. You've got bills that you've got to pay, and you've
Yeah.
got to reinvest money back into your business, because if you really want to look after your patients, you have to make money so you can reinvest it back into the
Yeah.
business,
But
so
like,
you can buy other toys, that you can do things that you can't do if you don't have money.
but I think it's when you're part of the medical profession, it's not really a thing to talk about the money. I think it's almost impolite because obviously, especially if you are working, so in the NHS or you're not working privately, let's be honest, you're not there for the money
Yeah.
as such. There's other careers that pay so much more. So you to even get into that type of career choice in the first place, you obviously have an affinity with people and wanting to help people and improve people's quality of life. So it almost feels, I think, as a profession, not just podiatry, but I think all medical
Oh, I
professions,
agree.
it almost feels very sinful or exploitative to talk about the money, but you do need to pay your bills, which is
I
very
always look at it
important.
that it's
Yeah,
one of the things, like my book, it's no secret there's money in podiatry. At no stage
yeah,
do I talk really about making money in the book.
yeah,
All I talk about is about setting up a good business. And if you set up a good business, money is a byproduct of
yeah,
just having a good
absolutely.
business. And then I think if you don't like money, if you really don't like it, you have multiple options. You can give it away to charity, or
Yeah.
you can send it to me. I don't mind it. I have no problem with it at all. So if you don't like it, send it to me. I will look after it. I will spend it for you. I don't have a problem with that.
It's a mindset change, isn't it? I think I've really had the clinic for 3 years, but the person I was in 2021 to the person I am now are very different. I remember I was still very fresh with very healthcare
Mm,
thinking, and now I've had to shift very quickly into yes, my paramount goal is to improve my patients' lives, rid them of pain, and be with them on that journey to recovery and just be a really good podiatrist. But also, if I want things like shiny equipment and oh, I want a really good podiatrist. If I really want to employ good podiatrists, I need the funds to be able
yeah,
to employ them. If I want the building or the clinic to look aesthetically pleasing, that people come in and say, wow, that costs money.
it does.
So I've had to grow up and think, no, it's true. I've
It
really had
is.
to grow up and be like, you know what? Okay, right, let's get out of this NHS thinking. Now I need to try and be a really good clinician and bring an income in that I can make this clinic look wow and make the patients all say wow and be like, wow, this is a really great place to have treatment because the costs of running the business, wow.
Yeah, I know.
Wow, it is shocking. And I look at anytime I go into any businesses now, or even if I go to a restaurant, I look at it, everything just looks different now,
Mm.
because you can almost see behind the smiles and the good mornings and
You
everything.
appreciate how much it costs to just
Yes,
open the doors
yes,
of
yes.
a podiatry
I don't
clinic.
ask for discounts. I think
No,
it's rude. I before I'd be a bit cheeky, but now I'm like, no, that's just rude.
like I said, just to open the doors of a podiatry clinic,
Yeah,
to have a receptionist there, to have the lights on, to have water running,
absolutely.
yeah, where you are, have heat,
Yeah,
all
yes.
that adds up. And sometimes you might even get someone who works with you, and all they see is, oh, they see all this money coming in and go, oh, here's Funmi. Yes, she's like rolling
Yeah.
around in a bed on all £100 notes.
I wish.
And but they don't realize, especially the first few months, first year or so, you're not making any money.
Mm. No, and I think I'm really blessed to have a really wonderful team. I'm
Yeah,
very transparent with my team. I will say that things are really tight or things are really difficult. If they're difficult, I don't think there's any point in painting this picture that we're flush
yeah,
with money. But then at the same time, being transparent is really good, but also having action plans in place. So this is what we're going to do. So this is where we need to get to. And this is what we're going to do to get there. This is the goal. And then get everybody on board with that. Because obviously, if the clinic thrives, everybody wins. There's more nice things we could do. There's
It's
more
true.
dinners. There's more fun, like away days. Everything gets better. So it's a win for everything. I can spoil them more, the better we do. So, you know,
Yeah. So we were talking off air, and at the moment you're looking for a new team member to join you.
I am. Yeah, I
How's that going?
am.
How's that going?
Yeah, it's not bad actually. We've had some applicants.
Yeah.
I think I said this before. I'm gonna take it. I'm gonna take my time with this recruitment. I
Yeah.
really want the right
Wait
type
and
of
get the
person,
right person.
the right
Yes.
podiatrist, because I think sometimes when you're new to all of this, you make assumptions about people generally because you don't know,
Mm.
or you need somebody now. I need somebody right now, and then you fill a seat. But I think we're such a we're a really good team, and I'm not just saying this, but I'm just saying it. We are a really good team. Anyone coming to work with us would enjoy working at the clinic. So we just need the right person with a good spirit, fun, kind, good hands,
Yeah.
obviously, with a genuine willingness to learn, or just be really excited about podiatry because there's no need to be frustrated in your job. There's no need to be frustrated in your job. There's ways. If for like things, that's a good thing about private practice. For example, if you're coming from far and you don't want to be stuck in rush hour, you don't want to do a job before you've even got to work. Okay, well, start later. You can start at 10. Do you know what I mean? There's ways you can make somebody's life easier. It doesn't have to be so rigid. Things
No,
don't
I
need to be
agree.
so rigid,
It's too
you know?
life's too short to not be having fun with what you're doing.
Absolutely. I think, yeah, that's my thing. It doesn't have to be rigid. If I wanted rigidity, I'd stay where I was. Now it's time to just have true, but it's true, isn't it? I don't know if my daughter has sports day where I can start later and go
Yeah.
to her sports
But
day,
that's a
or I can
flexibility
see her,
thing we were
the
talking about before.
flexibility.
When you have
Yeah,
your own
it's
practice, it's not always about money. It's the freedom
no.
to come and go and
Absolutely,
yeah.
absolutely, which is so important. Then, therefore, you don't miss out on the most important things in your children's lives or in your life. It's something you want to do. So, yeah, so we're recruiting at the moment,
So if
and
anyone
yeah,
wants to
I'm
reach out
open.
to you, what's the best way to contact you?
Yeah, so drop me an email
Yeah,
for me at
give us the
Chiltern.
email address.
Yep,
I'll put it in the show
yep.
notes as
So,
well.
okay, yeah. So for me at ChilternWellbeing.com. Yeah, you're right it because it's a unique name.
I will put
So
it there, Funmi, which is Funmi, and it
yeah, it's a silent N.
yeah.
Yeah, for me at ChilternWellbeing.com. And yeah, just drop me an email and then we can let's talk. Let's just see whether you can come in and come into the clinic, come and shadow us, come and see what we do, see if it's a place that you'd like to work, see if the vibe is good, and then take it from there.
Yeah, like I've known you for a little while now, back when you did the reboot and we chat fairly often. And I can just tell that where you work is a fun place. So
Yeah,
whoever is going to join your team, this is just advice for anyone, is wait until you get the right person that's going to be a good fit for your team. Because if you get the wrong
yeah.
person, it can just mess stuff up big time. And I've learned
Yeah,
that from making mistakes where I've been so desperate just to employ someone that can wear a podiatry hat and didn't
yeah,
realize you're just throwing a poisoned apple amongst your good apples. It doesn't take long
yeah.
to ruin everything.
Yeah. But also, I think it's also, I think now, I think even as an employer, I think it's really important to know what you want as
Mm,
well. I've had good podiatrists, really lucky. All the podiatrists that have worked in our clinic, they've been really great. I think it's just if I want that wholesomeness now and that like to really enjoy, for everyone to enjoy each other, yeah, a full-time person that can
yeah.
come in and just be that last piece in the jigsaw.
Yeah, but we used to do the same thing when we were recruiting because our clinic was heavily involved in MSK biomechanics. If
Yeah,
somebody applied for the job and they said, "Oh, I love high risk feet and diabetic foot ulcers," I wouldn't employ them because it wasn't what I was
it
looking
wasn't what
for.
you're doing.
I knew that 80% of the work or 70% of the work was going to be MSK related.
Yeah, so it wouldn't fit.
So having someone that didn't have an interest in that area straight away was a red flag. No point employing them. I could, but then it would have just frustrated me, and it would have frustrated them as well. There was a better
Yeah,
job for them out there somewhere.
yeah. No, and that's just being honest, isn't it? Yeah. And not wasting
So,
anyone's time.
I know. So I want to thank you for coming on the Podiatry Legends podcast. Do you have any words of wisdom before we wrap up? Is there any, if, say there's a new graduate out there at the moment, I have not done this for a long time. They bump you at a bus stop and they go, "Oh, you're on the Podiatry Legends podcast." What's one bit of advice that you would give them?
I would say be clear about your vision for your career and don't be fearful about fulfilling that vision. You know, podiatry as a profession is a small profession. There are a lot of people that you can reach out to that can help you. And I think that's what I would say. I think that there's no need to just be in a kind of silo by yourself. Dream big
Yeah,
and just go for it. But make contact with people and ask for help. That's what I would say. And then people will help you to achieve what you need to achieve.
that is good advice. It's like the quote on my back wall, your next connection will be the one that changes your life.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. You need to put
Uh,
yourself out there.
oh, yeah. I just think that's why you need to go to events. You need to go to little workshops, conferences. If you can't go to the bigger ones, then go to some of the smaller ones that other people are holding and just connect with other people. So for me, I want to thank you so much for coming on the Podiatry Legends podcast, sharing
Thank you for
part of your
having me.
story. And this has been a lot of fun. So thank you very much.
Thank you.